Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Heartweek's Tech World.
Brand new and fresh from the render farm, although I'm kind of running on empty today. I feel like an operating system in desperate need of a reboot.
Oh dear, a case of the Mondays?
More like a general, the world is too complicated blues. But I'm sure you have a few topics that will make it even worse, right?
On the contrary, my first topic will show you that good old simple technology is sometimes the best. It's about a clash of the titans, a cutting-edge AI versus a 45-year-old video game console. You might remember we talked about how ChatGPT lost to the Atari 2600's chess program. Well, the developer followed up and has now pitted Microsoft's Copilot against it, with the same humbling result.
Wait, Microsoft's hyper-modern AI, which can write poetry and code, loses at chess to a console from 1979? A console with 128 bytes of RAM? That has to be a joke.
Not a joke. The developer even specifically warned Copilot about how ChatGPT failed, namely that the AI loses track of the board state.
And what did Copilot say? Probably something like, hold my beer, right?
Pretty much exactly that. Copilot boasted that it could think 10 to 15 moves ahead, but would limit itself to just 3 to 5 moves against the suboptimal Atari to exploit its mistakes, so it was absolutely certain of its victory.
The classic pride before the fall. So how did the game actually go?
It was a disaster for the AI. The developer had to send a screenshot of the board to Copilot after every move the Atari made. But the AI's moves were so questionable that it quickly lost 2 pawns, a knight, and a bishop, while the Atari only had to sacrifice a single pawn.
And did the AI admit its mistake?
Yes, in the end, Copilot had to admit that its mental image of the board didn't match reality. But it took its defeat with dignity, bowing its digital king with dignity and honor to the vintage silicon mastermind. The reason for the failure is simple. These language models are trained to recognize text patterns, but they have no real spatial awareness. A tiny 45-year-old chess algorithm is simply better suited for this one specific task. From the battle of an old console to a full-blown conflict involving a brand new one.
This has to be about Nintendo, doesn't it?
Correct. Anyone in the US who wants to buy a new Switch 2 on Amazon is currently out of luck. Nintendo has pulled most of its products from the platform.
What's going on there? Did they get into a fight over the price of Prime subscriptions or the color of the delivery drones?
Not quite. The problem is third-party sellers. Apparently, savvy sellers bought large quantities of Nintendo products cheaply in Southeast Asia and then sold them on Amazon's US marketplace, undercutting the official price set by Nintendo.
Ah, a gray market import problem. And Nintendo wasn't happy with how Amazon was handling it?
Exactly. In response, Nintendo ceased its direct cooperation with Amazon in the US. The Switch 2 was not available there at launch, which is a huge deal since the US market is extremely important for Amazon. The console was available as usual at other major retailers like Walmart or Target.
Is it a new thing for big brands to clash with Amazon like this?
Not really. Nike and Apple have had similar conflicts in the past because they lost control over their products on the marketplace. Sometimes they leave and come back later under new terms. There are already some signs that Nintendo and Amazon might be reconciling, but the Switch 2 is still not officially sold on Amazon in the US. From console hardware, let's switch to next-generation PC hardware. Intel is apparently planning a giant leap forward.
After the last generation wasn't exactly a home run, right? What are they promising for the future?
A lot. According to a leaked document, the upcoming CPU generation, codenamed Nova Lake, is set to deliver up to 10% more single-core performance and, now get this, up to 60% more multi-core performance compared to the current generation.
60%? How do they plan to achieve that? Just pack twice as many cores onto the chip?
That's pretty much the plan. The top model in the Core Ultra 9 series is supposed to have a whopping 52 cores, 16 large performance cores, 32 small efficiency cores, and this is new, 4 tiny low-power cores on their own island, responsible only for the most power-efficient tasks.
And all of this is to reclaim the gaming crown from AMD.
That's the stated goal. AMD has had a clear lead recently with its X3D processors. Whether Intel can win back the gaming throne with Nova Lake remains to be seen. This is all still rumor, and the new architecture isn't expected until 2026. And finally, we have a serious and really important topic for anyone who uses a Linux system, and that's a lot more people than you might think, as it's inside countless servers, routers, and smart devices.
Okay, now I'm getting nervous. What's wrong?
There's a critical security vulnerability in the command line tool SUDO. That's the program users on Linux use to temporarily grant themselves administrator rights.
And what's the problem with it?
A flaw that has existed for almost 2 years allows any local user without special privileges to easily gain root privileges. In other words, to gain absolute control over the entire system. The attack complexity is extremely low.
Absolutely anyone without much effort? That sounds catastrophic.
It is. The vulnerability is rated critical with a score of 9.3. But luckily, there is a solution. A new, secure version of SUDO has been available since June 28th. There is no other workaround. You have to update the system.
Okay, so for all the Linux users out there, check for updates for the sudo package immediately and install them.
Exactly. By the way, the faulty function that caused this will be completely removed from SUDO in the future because it's simply too prone to errors. And that's it for today. From arrogant AI and feisty console makers to serious and really important topics for anyone who uses a Linux system.
My takeaway for the week, I trust my old calculator more than any AI. Nintendo is as stubborn in a fight as a toddler, and I now desperately need to update my old Linux server that I haven't touched in 3 years.
Please do. And if you out there enjoyed how we navigated you through this tech madness, then you know what to do.
Exactly. Smash that like button, give us 5 stars, or write a nice comment in your podcast app of choice. Maybe something like, "My Atari has won before too," or "Thanks for the pseudo tip. We really appreciate it."
Take care, keep your systems up to date, and until next time.
Bye.